If you're anything like me, you love spray walls and board climbing, and the first thing you want to do when you arrive at the climbing gym is just throw yourself at them for hours. It's incredibly fun to just climb as hard as you can on the board every session, and you will make gains doing this, provided your fingers can handle it. However, I think if people made a few minor tweaks in how intentionally they use a board or spray wall, they could improve a lot faster, especially in the areas that they care most about. I want to talk about intentionality when using a board or spray wall. What I mean by intentionality is picking and setting board climbs which serve a specific goal in your training. This will be based on your own training goals, so it will be highly specific to the individual. An example would be if your goal is to improve in your tension and your ability to toe into footholds. If this was the case for you, you'd want to set boulders and do boulders on the board that test that specific skill and necessitate that you get better at it. For example, you could set a foot tension project on your board, which is too hard for you at your current tension ability, but will become possible for you as you improve at that skill and build your pyramid in that style. To do this effectively, it's important to choose and set climbs which reward keeping tension and not incentivize the exact opposite. Sometimes people don't keep their goal in mind or are bad at making sure it's expressed in the boulders that they set on the board. And as for this example, they might set a boulder which rewards cutting feet rather than keeping tension. Another way to beat this problem is putting training rules upon yourself, where you force yourself to do a contrived beta that normally, if you were just looking to complete the boulder under any circumstances possible, you wouldn't do. But for sake of training stimulus, you force yourself to do the boulder a certain way. I've talked in the past about the power of putting restrictions on yourself in your training, and I think this idea follows that. It's all well and good getting to the top of a boulder with whichever beta is easiest for you when your goal is to simply perform. But if you have times when you're explicitly training rather than being in a performance phase, it's sometimes good training to restrict yourself from certain betas to target a weakness. For example, I've set this compression block on my board, which is perfect training for me if I force myself to use a certain beta, and would probably be at least a grade easier if I chose to do this easier beta, but I'm not after completing the boulder by any means necessary. I'm doing it for the training stimulus as I want to get better at that compression and heel hook style. Doing things with the intent of training to improve at whatever goal you've chosen for yourself so that you adequately test yourself at that thing in your board climbing is the name of the game. Another way you can ensure you do this is by picking out every hold type or type of move that you want to train on your board. Sticking with the toeing in example, I would limit myself to only in-cut feet that you can pull in with your feet on, rather than slopey push feet or heel and toe hooks. This is something I personally need to address in my climbing, as I'm okay at using slopey push feet due to the nature of the local outdoor boulders that I have, being gritstone where the feet are oftentimes little frictiony nubs rather than in-cuts that you can claw into with the rubber on your climbing shoes. I'm consciously going to try and remedy that weakness I have by choosing climbs that rely on me pulling in hard with my feet, as I'll choose bad handholds but really in-cut feet. So what I've done is found a weakness in my climbing by paying attention to the way I normally use footholds, and I'm now addressing it by setting board climbs that target that weakness. Another example I'm using right now on the board, as I'm doing a lot of training for slopey compression boulders in the Peak District, is setting climbs with opposing sloped holds and heel hooks. As you can see, I've made a map on my spray wall of all of the possibilities I have for this kind of problem, which makes it easy for me to make up problems to train that specific skill. Board apps like Stoked, Moonboard, Tension Board, Kilter Board are great because you can make folders, and with these folders you can create categories of different skills to target. I've made myself a folder on Stoked for my compression training, but say you were climbing on a Moonboard and you wanted a bunch of boulders to train dynamic latching, you could do the same. In a nutshell, it's about thinking consciously about what you want to train and ensuring the climbs that you set and climb on a board or spray wall target those goals effectively.